Hi, thanks for joining me. My name is Sam. This video will cover the effects of Doctor Strange's memory spells in Mark Webb's Amazing Spider-Man universe. The first spell, meant to erase the knowledge of Peter Parker's identity as Spider-Man, backfired due to overt complication, instead bringing individuals from other realities who already knew the information that's supposed to be erased. Among them were the Lizard, also known as Dr. Curtis Connors from the year 2012, and a variant Peter Parker, presumably from the year 2025. This Peter, along with the two other variants present, cured Dr. Connors of his lizard DNA, before Doctor Strange cast a second memory spell, successfully erasing all memory of Peter Parker's existence, sending them back to the place and time that they'd been pulled from. It's worth mentioning now that there was an Electro variant from 2014, very similar to the Electro we see in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but since this variant knew Peter's identity and Max Dillon in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 did not, we won't be included in these events. Dr. Connors then, if he was returned to the same spot that he had been pulled from, would have read Peter's name on the camera, forgotten about it, and then found himself fully human aside from some scales on the back of his neck. The subsequent fights between Spider-Man and the Lizard not taking place would leave Captain Stacy free to look into Dr. Connors. Later that evening, he would be informed by his daughter Gwen that she and the rest of Dr. Connors' staff had been sent home for a week. I'm sure even in the main timeline, this would have been enough to get his gears turning, as it's not exactly normal. The captain would visit Connor's office the next day, just so he could prove Parker wrong, of course. He would find the scientist searching high and low among shattered glass beakers and terrariums. "Everything all right, Doctor?" "Never better, Captain, never better. Just lost something, that's all. Can I help you?" "I'm sure it's nothing. I've had a peculiar conversation with Peter Parker earlier today regarding you and the alleged dinosaur spotted at the Brooklyn Bridge. Then when I got home, Gwen told me you sent her and everyone else away. I did give my staff the week off. I didn't want to be disturbed as I worked on a new project of mine. As you can see, it hasn't gone according to plan. But you said something about a Peter Parker, was it? You knew his father. I'm sorry, but Richard had no children. He died years ago, and no boy has shown up here claiming to be this Peter Parker anyway. Now, if there's nothing else, I'd best be getting back to my work." Captain Stacy respectfully leaves Oscorp, thinking to himself, well, he may not be a giant lizard, but Dr. Connors is definitely hiding something. Later, he would follow up with Peter to ask him what purpose Dr. Connors might have for pretending Peter Parker didn't exist. Peter would reluctantly admit to having used another intern's name as a means of gaining access to Oscorp the day he met Dr. Connors, and how every meeting after that had been strictly off-site or after hours. Lastly, he would reiterate what he had told Captain Stacy about the algorithm that he had solved. Captain Stacy would begin to conjecture that this decay rate algorithm wasn't exactly what Peter had been told it was for, as the behavior of Dr. Connors would suggest that he was either trying to hide the existence of the decay rate algorithm, or take credit for it himself rather than admitting that someone else had helped him. Parker wouldn't budge on his lizard story, however, which only seemed to confirm Stacy's suspicions that he'd been duped by Connors. Oscorp would be safe, legally speaking, on account of the many layers of security surrounding Norman Osborn's illness. So at least for now, the search would be redirected towards the plane crash that killed Richard and Mary Parker years ago. In between Peter Parker's double life as Spider-Man and Captain Stacy's attempts to catch him, the two would work on the case together until they found the Parker's secret subway car lab. At that point, Peter would be off the case, and Captain Stacy would keep his full involvement a secret, as a way to mirror the original timeline where he kept Peter's identity as Spider-Man a secret, and also to continue to ignore the legal ramifications of the sketchier actions of the protagonists. Fast forward to 2014, and Peter and Gwen are having far less relationship problems since her father never forced them apart as a dying wish. Peter still misses the valedictorian speech, chasing Rhino and saving Max Dillon. Max still becomes Electro on his birthday and gets put in a high-security prison. When Harry comes to Peter for help, Peter has a lot more information up his sleeve to work with. And he's also under the impression that Dr. Connor's condition was temporary by natural means rather than magical multiversal means. He comes up with a plan to use DNA from one of Harry's living relatives who was not afflicted with the Osborn curse, along with some animals specifically chosen to combat the disease. Harry would be kept under close watch during this time. Meanwhile, the relative in question would be diagnosed with some sort of mental illness, such as split personality disorder. This trait, mixed with whatever DNA was blended into it, enhanced by the manic tendencies of the Osborn curse, would once more lead to the goblin. Fortunately, Harry would already be well contained, although only rarely fully sane. Peter and Gwen would visit often, but he would never be allowed to leave, a situation which would only enhance the goblin's natural rage. Soon after, the two would move to England for Gwen's school, and Spider-Man moving to Europe means that Mr. Fears still has his chance to unleash the Sinister Six on New York, this time with Electro at his disposal. Without an Amazing Spider-Man 3 or substantial information regarding chains of events during that time being given in No Way Home, it's just not practical to try to come up with a what-if situation, aside from just what could an Amazing Spider-Man 3 have looked like had they made it. Once again, thanks for joining me. Subscribe and like the video if you like this kind of stuff, I guess. And, bye.